Good evening and welcome to another episode of Geared Toward Gear. My name is Sean, coming from the great state of Texas, and I'm so glad that you're here. Today we're going to be doing a full review on a flashlight that I just picked up from Lumintop. As you can see, it is an EDC flashlight. So if you're thinking this is going to be an outdoors flashlight or a hunting flashlight or a law enforcement flashlight, it clearly says on the box, this is an EDC flashlight. Obviously you can use it for whatever you want, but kind of an interesting story with this light, and it's going to be a pretty positive review, so stick with me. There's a lot of interesting things about this light in particular, and I hope to share some interesting information with you that you may not have heard on other reviews of this particular light. So let's get into it. So this is how it ships, just a basic cardboard box. And there's a couple things on the back of the box that immediately struck me. And if you work in any kind of industrial setting, you may recognize some of these logos like ANSI and ISO, and I'll touch on those in a second. But when I saw that, I was excited, and I'll explain why as we get into it. So let's start with just getting into the box. So when you open it, you get a little, thanks for buying one of our lights. We'd love to hear from you from the company, just a little business card type thing. And then you've got the light itself, and we'll talk about that in a second. It does come with a few accessories, which is nice, and this is pretty common these days with most flashlights. You get a little wrist lanyard, which I typically just throw away. Personally, I don't use those. In addition, you get a diffuser, which we will demonstrate a little later on, and you get 2 spare O-rings, which is always nice to have those extra O-rings. So that's what you get in the box: the lanyard, the diffuser, and the spare O-rings. And then kind of down at the very bottom underneath everything, you have your instruction manual. It's pretty straightforward, so we won't get into the manual itself. So that's what comes in the box. So let's get down to brass tacks here. So this is the Lumintop Tool AA 2.0. If I can get that to focus there. And this light has been around for a little while. It's not brand new to the market by any means. These first became available to purchase on Amazon just over a year ago, in November of 2017. They may have been available prior to that on dealer websites, but it's not a brand new light, but it's not something that's been around forever. As you can see from the name of the light, it is a AA flashlight, and we'll start with the price, because that's the real kicker here, is that this light goes for $17.99 US on Amazon.com, which is an incredible price, and one of the reasons why I never bought one. I'm familiar with the Lumintop brand. I own the AAA version of this. I also own a Lumintop Prince Mini. Those both cost me like 50 bucks. The AAA was copper, the Prince Mini was carbon fiber and a little fancier. And 18 bucks for a Chinese-made flashlight, it just never spoke to me. And so I never bought one. But that changed recently, and I'll kind of tell a quick story. So I was on a Facebook group called EDC, parentheses, Everyday Carry. And that's open to anybody who's on Facebook. If you want to be a member of that group, it's a public group. And people talk about what they carry, and they post pictures and all kinds of fun stuff. And there was a gentleman who was looking for a replacement for his current EDC light, which was a Maglite Solitaire. If you're familiar with Maglite, the Solitaire is a single AAA light with no pocket clip. It just goes on the keychain. They're like $8, super cheap. But I guess for a keychain light, they can get the job done. And so he was looking for recommendations on what he could replace this Maglite with. And a lot of people were commenting on different options. I personally commented and said to look at the Olight i3E, because it's similar in that it's a AAA keychain flashlight. Not super bright, but kind of in the same price range, about 10 bucks. Other people were suggesting Olights and Streamlights and micro streams and all kinds of different stuff. And there was a couple gentlemen who just kept talking about this light. They, in fact, wouldn't stop talking about it, and anybody that suggested anything other than this light they would kind of laugh at, with their little emojis, and it is what it is. No harm, no foul. But it got me thinking, what's so great about this light that these two guys just won't stop talking about it? And so, although I was a little taken aback at the fact that they were discounting everybody else's recommendations, I'm also not a fool, and I like flashlights, and I thought there's got to be something to this if these guys are so passionate about this light. So I bought one. 18 bucks, not a huge expense, and I figured it was well worth the price to check it out and see what all the fuss was about. And I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised. So let's get a few specs out of the way real quick so you kind of know what you're dealing with. So this is going to be 3.5 inches long, 3/4 of an inch diameter. It's got a tail click switch. It weighs just 0.83 ounces, which is about the weight of 4/4. And that weight is assuming that you're using a 14500 battery. If you put a AA in this, it's going to weigh a little bit more, because a AA battery weighs about twice as much as a 14500, and we'll get into the battery options here in a minute. It has 5 modes, which is nice. It has a low, a medium, a high, a turbo, and then a strobe feature. It uses a Cree XP-LHD LED, and it's kind of a cool white discharge as opposed to like a neutral white. So pretty bright, crisp white color. It does have a removable and replaceable pocket clip. So, the pocket clip is designed kind of deep carry style, but it sits pretty low on the light itself. So you're going to have a bit of the light poking out, but you can remove this. And I'm not going to right now because I don't want to bend it. But you can remove it, replace it, or reverse it rather, if you want to put it on the bill of a cap or something like that to use it as a headlamp. So that is an option. You can remove and reposition the clip. So that's a nice feature. And the body is made of aluminum, which is pretty typical with most EDC lights these days, especially at this price point. So that's kind of the main specs as far as size is concerned. And I'll bring in a couple other lights here in a minute to compare sizes. But what really interested me about this light, and I alluded to it earlier, was some of the things that I noticed on the back of the box. And so my day job, I've mentioned in the past that I'm a licensed paramedic, and I have been for quite some time. But my day job is working in environmental health and safety for a large global company, one of the biggest, probably second or third biggest company in the world. And I deal a lot with manufacturing and warehousing and logistics and transportation and things like that. And so when I see things like ANSI or ISO, I immediately was interested. And so ANSI is the American National Standard Institute. And essentially it's a organization that creates standards and or verifies standards with different products on the retail market. So this is ANSI certified in terms of its advertised outputs. And we'll talk about the outputs here in a little while as far as what it claims that it can put out. And all of those claims, according to Lumintop and according to their packaging, has been certified and verified by ANSI to in fact be the actual output that this light's going to put out. So that was pretty neat. In addition, wherever they manufacture these, it's in China. It says made in China on the box, and it has their address in China. But the facility in which this light is manufactured is ISO 9001 certified. And so for those of you who work in an industrial setting, you may be familiar with ISO. It is the International Organization for Standardization. And I realize that ISO, the acronym is it doesn't make sense. You would think it would be IOS, but it stands for the International Organization for Standardization. And to become ISO 9001 certified as a manufacturer is actually quite difficult. It's expensive. You have to be trained, certified, audited, and given this license essentially to say that your facility is ISO 9001 certified. And what that means is that they have verified that the facility has the most stringent standards for quality control. And so a lot of large like firearms manufacturers, for example, will be ISO 9001 certified. A lot of other manufacturers in the tech industry, it's kind of the gold standard for quality control. So what that tells me, again, taking the company Lumintop at their word, is that the facility where this is manufactured is ISO 9001 certified, meaning every single light that comes out of this particular factory, wherever these are made, should have the exact same quality control standards in place. So you should never get a lemon or a defect. It should be the exact same quality every single time. So I thought that was really neat that they were both ANSI certified for their claims of output, as well as ISO 9001 certified for quality control. So that's really cool. In addition, this light is IP68 rated, which is a rating that covers a few things. It covers how resistant it is to water, dust, being dropped, submerged, things like that. So IP68 specifically for this light means that it can be submerged up to 2 meters. It can withstand temperatures between -4 and plus 131 Fahrenheit. So pretty cold, all the way up to really, really hot. And it's impact resistant up to 5 feet or 1.5 meters. So you should be able to drop this from 5 feet or 1.5 meters and have no issues whatsoever. Put it 2 meters under the water, all that good stuff. So it has been IP68 rated for those things. It's also dust proof. According to their literature. So any dust, or I should say no dust, should ever enter the internals of this light. So all that stuff I thought was pretty neat. So let's talk about, I mentioned earlier the dimensions and the different modes that it comes with. But one really important thing to keep in mind with this light is that it has 2 different options for battery source. So it is the Lumintop Tool AA 2.0. So it takes a AA battery, but it also takes a 14500 battery. And that's what I have in it right now. And I'll bring in a quick comparison here. So I paid $10 for a pack of 4 14500 batteries because I didn't own any prior to purchasing this light. So I'm going to talk about the different output levels that you can get with this light. And they're pretty impressive, to be honest with you. But those output levels are only if you use a 14500 battery. And so this is a lithium ion battery as opposed to alkaline. This particular one is 3.7 volts as opposed to like 1.5 volts on a standard Duracell or Energizer lithium battery. And it's rated at 800 milliamp hours. So a pretty powerful battery. It's the exact same size as a AA, but it's about half the weight and puts out more than twice the voltage. So that's where you get the benefit of these massive lumen outputs that this light is capable of. So I'm running it with a 14500 battery, and these are rechargeable batteries. And I'll talk more about the batteries and charging in a second, but to get the most out of this light, you really need to use a 14500. And again, you can get a 4-pack for about $10, so they're not too terribly expensive. You can spend about another $10 and get a charger so that when these die, you can recharge them. And one quick, I guess, kind of tip or trick, whenever I store batteries in a container like this, which I typically do, if the battery is unused and has full power, full juice, it's brand new, I will orient it all in the same direction. If I have a battery that's dead, so say the battery in this light dies, when I put it back in the case, I'm going to put it facing the opposite directions. That way I know that this one's dead and these are still good. So that's just a little quick tip there. So let's talk about output and operation. This light is not programmable, meaning you cannot pre-select which modes you would like to have or not have. It's all predetermined, but it does have a memory feature, meaning whatever setting you last had it on, it will return to that setting when you turn the light on. So if I click the tail switch here, it's going to come on in the lowest setting. If I short tap it again, it's gonna go to medium, then high. Oops, messed that up. Okay, so here we're at medium, or I'm sorry, low. So we're at low right now. One more tap to medium, high, turbo, and then back to low. So now I'm on low. If I turn the light off and turn it back on, it will return back to low. So that's the memory function, right? If I cycle to high and turn it off, turn it back on, it goes right back to high. So that's the memory feature, which is nice. So, you know, if you always want this to come on at its lowest setting, just make sure that when you turn it off, it's on its lowest setting, and you'll always have that memory, which is nice. So let's talk about Lumen Output. So this light will put out 650 lumens on a single 14500 battery, which is just damn impressive, to be honest with you. Again, that is only on a 14500 battery. So let's get this back to low, and we'll talk about the Lumen Output. So on low, with a 14500 battery, you're looking at 16 lumens. On a AA, this low setting would only be 3.7 lumens. On medium, with a 14500 battery, you're looking at 85 lumens. If you drop this down to a AA battery, you'd only get 28 lumens. We go to the third setting, which is high. That's going to be 360 lumens with a 14500 battery. And if it was a AA battery, that would be 140 lumens. On turbo, you're looking at your full 650 lumens with a 14500 battery. If this was a AA battery, your turbo mode is going to be 270 lumens. The strobe feature is also going to be the same as the high setting. So on a 14500 battery, you're going to get 360 lumens. On a AA, you're going to get 140. So it automatically cycles through low, medium, high, turbo, low, medium, high, turbo. It just goes on and on forever. To get to the strobe feature, it's a little, I think they could have come up with a better way to get the strobe feature. But basically from any setting, I think I'm on medium right now, if you just short press this 6 times quickly, it will go to strobe. So strobe warning for those of you who are sensitive to the strobe lights. So just 6 quick taps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I get my strobe. If I turn it off, it will not go back to strobe with the memory feature. It'll come back on whatever setting you were on before you started the strobe. So again, we're on low, goes to medium, goes to high, goes to turbo, back to low. And it just cycles through over and over and over again, 6 taps to strobe. So pretty impressive to get 650 lumens out of a light that's this size and this weight. I mentioned earlier 0.83 ounces, which is about the weight of 4 quarters. I mean, it is just super freaking light. And I think part of that's the aluminum that they use is just probably a thinner stock. But it's far lighter than any other light that I have in this size and form factor. So kind of coming back to the batteries. So this light, for what it can put out at 18 bucks, to me is kind of a no-brainer. It's a great light, super easy to use. You know, I like the rubber tail switch. That's my preference. I don't tend to prefer a side switch on a light. It is rubberized, it's very tactile, but it is recessed a little bit. So you're not gonna accidentally discharge it, and it will stand on end if you put it carefully. The other neat thing, and let me get it on to the turbo mode here for a second. Okay, there we are. And I'm just gonna kind of hold this in my hand for a second so it can heat up a little bit. It has a glow-in-the-dark ring around the bezel, which is kind of neat. This is actually starting to burn my hand. It's pretty hot on 650 lumens. But if I turn it off real quick, you may be able to see if I cut my hand just properly, and you probably won't be able to because it's too bright in here. But there is a ring just on the inside of the bezel that glows green. And so it just kind of looks cool. When you turn the light off, it just kind of glows for a while. So if you are using it and you set it down, you'll be able to find it, you know, within, you know, several minutes. It just kind of continues to glow green, which is kind of neat. And I apologize that you probably can't see that on the camera since I'm inside with the lights on. And I don't want to interrupt the programming to, I don't know if you can see that, probably not. Anyway, I promise it glows green. So 18 bucks is a no-brainer for this light, in my opinion. However, you have to keep in mind that to get the full performance out of this light, you do need a 14500 battery. As I mentioned, this 4-pack that I bought was $10, so I paid $28 to get the light and the battery source that would power it to its full potential. And anywhere from $10 to $20, maybe $30, you can get 14500 batteries that are USB rechargeable that are really, really neat. I know Phoenix makes some. I think Enloop makes some as well. But you can actually get 14500 batteries that have a USB input, so you can literally plug your battery into the wall and recharge it that way, or you can get kind of the old school battery chargers where you just load them into like a dock and plug that into the wall. I didn't buy a charger. I just wanted to kind of test the light and see what it could do. And so I just bought the 4-pack for 10 bucks. So although it is $18, which is a great deal, to get the full performance, you are gonna have to spend some extra money on the 14500 batteries. Having said that, let's just take the 14500 batteries out of the equation. Even if you just use a AA, it's gonna be a little heavier, probably a little over an ounce, but you're still gonna get 270 lumens on that turbo setting. So even if you don't want to spend the extra money on the 14500 batteries, just run a AA and you're gonna get 270 lumens. There is nothing wrong with 270 lumens out of a small, lightweight, very easy to carry EDC light. So with that said, let's bring in a couple other lights to compare sizes. We'll start with a few AAA lights. So here we've got the, you know, beloved but not too powerful classic Streamlight MicroStream. Next to it, we have the Olight i3 TEOS. This one happens to be in copper, and those are almost identical in length. The updated Streamlight MicroStream USB is going to be a little longer than the other two, and these are all AAA lights. The Lumintop Tool AA 2.0 is going to be about the same length as your standard AAA light. So nice form factor, very pocketable. Here's another AA light. This is a Claris M7. Very similar in size and overall dimensions. The Claris is maybe a little bit thinner, but almost identical in length. And then one last AA light. And this one also takes a CR123 if you want it to. The Streamlight ProTac 1L 1AA. That's obviously going to be quite a bit larger. So if you're looking for a very pocketable, very lightweight EDC flashlight that's going to put out just, frankly, a shit ton of light for not a lot of money, I think the Lumintop Tool AA 2.0 is an excellent option. 18 bucks. Again, I was kind of skeptical, which is why I never bought one in the first place. But after those conversations on that YouTube group, or I'm sorry, Facebook group, I was like, I'm gonna pick one up, carry it for a few days, and see what this thing can do. And it will light up my backyard. My backyard is almost an acre, and it will light up the entire backyard. I can see all the way to the back fence, kind of the wooded area beyond my house. So it is a powerful, powerful light. I will say on that turbo mode, you're only gonna get about 3 hours of runtime, and it gets pretty hot. It'll get a bit warm in your hand if you're running it on that turbo mode. The diffuser, real quick, these come with a lot of lights nowadays, and it's basically designed just to slip over the end of the light and kind of create a candle or a lantern. So for camping, or if the power goes out and you don't want to, you know, just have a crazy bright beam, you can put the diffuser on, and that's in turbo mode. That's pretty freaking bright. There's medium, that's a little more like it. So if you just need kind of like a candle to light up a tent or a campsite, or on your patio, or again, power outage, whatever, the diffuser could come in handy. I find, however, and you probably can see that, let me put it on turbo to get it charged up a little bit. The diffusers that come with lights like this, I tend to just kind of toss in the box and not ever use them because it's not convenient to carry, and I just don't personally find myself using them very often. So I do keep them, but I just don't really particularly use them. Once you turn it off, as you can see, it glows this green color again, so you're not going to lose it. It'll stay glowing for a couple minutes, and so yeah, it's a good light. I'm glad that I tried it. I believed the hype after seeing some really intense love for this light coming from that chat group, and I can say I am pleasantly surprised with the quality, just the feel, the ergonomics, the output. 650 lumens for 18 bucks, plus the cost of the 14500 battery. I don't think you can go wrong. Having said that, nothing wrong with a micro stream that's 250 lumens, or even the original micro stream at like 90 lumens. For general EDC stuff, you don't need 650. That's a lot. That's like law enforcement or weapons lights. A lot of my weapons lights have 650 plus lumens. Some have less, but so you don't need 650 lumens in my opinion in an EDC light. But it is nice to know that this thing is capable of doing that at such a low price point. Just the engineering to get that much output out of a 14500 battery is pretty impressive. So with that said, that is my review of the Lumintop, if I can get that to focus, Tool AA 2.0. Again, 18 bucks on Amazon. I think it's well worth it. This would make a great gift item. Again, with that low price point, I could see myself buying 4 or 5 of these and giving them to friends and family and things like that. So that's my review of the Lumintop Tool AA 2.0. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one.